that take credit cards. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2019 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply. I'm Doug Gottlieb sitting for Colin. This is The Herd on Fox Sports Radio, Fox Sports 1. Joy Taylor alongside. And we welcome in, he's the analyst for the Memphis Grizzlies on Fox Sports. He's Brevin Knight, of course, played 12 years in the NBA, drafted 16th overall. What he doesn't know is I was a high school kid in Tustin, California, and Mike Montgomery called and offered me a scholarship. Now, look, the way it really works, and he went to Seton Hall Prep, and Seton Hall didn't offer him, which is,
at all,
right? And did not even like, hey, you want to come? And you were like, no. So Mike Montgomery was very matter of fact. He's like, listen, the way we do it at Stanford is you come and you'll sit for 2 years, and then you'll be a starter, but you're a program for 2 years. So I was like, all right, well, who you got starting this better than me? Like, we have Brevin Knight. It's like, never heard of him. They're like, listen, you'd come in here, you'd play some with Brevin, but you'd be his backup for 2 years. And then, of course, I found out who Brevin Knight was, and was like, oh, he's kind of good. I probably would have started him ahead of me as well. How are you?
I'm doing great. No complaints at all. Life is good.
Look, Ja Morant you get to see him every night covering the Grizzlies. We talked a little bit with Tony Allen about him. Obviously, he has ridiculous athletic ability, and he seems to have the leadership quotient that not a lot of guys have. Can he shoot the way he needs to shoot in order to take that next step?
I think he can learn how to shoot the way he needs to, because he can make mid-range jump shots at a high clip right now. And a lot of these guys that come into this game, if you aren't a three-point shooter in the college level, you're not going to be an NBA three-point shooter right off the back. So for him, it is understanding how to play the position, how to make guys better. But he can score and get the shots that he wants to get right now. That three-point shot, he can make it, but it'll continue to get better and better as time goes on.
It's interesting because last night Trae Young had 50.
Right.
He had a 50-piece. And Trae Young can shoot, and Trae Young can really, really pass. And by the way, just a question, maybe Trae can answer this, or his dad, Ray Young, can. Why are you giving away your jersey to Quavo? You just dropped 50, right? There's like 5 guys that ever done it before 22, and you're handing your jersey to Quavo. Like, I like Quavo. But Quavo's on the court like, no, you can't have my jersey. I just dropped a 50-piece.
Well,
I'm going to keep this one. This one's going back to the house.
That is today's kid. The generation now is so intertwined with the hip-hop culture that those are the guys that they look up to.
I understand, but you just dropped a 50-piece. Hold on to that one. The thing that everyone says, though, about Trae is he's not a dog, right? Like, he wants to score. He does the pretty stuff. But the reason he didn't get invited to the 44-man roster of Team USA or whatever in terms of trying to find the Olympic team is his lack of desire to buy in defensively. Statistically considered the worst defender in the NBA. Where is Ja? You watch him. You know what it takes when guys start coming at you. Does he have that dog in him?
Oh, that's what he has. He plays with that chip on his shoulder. It's the reason why he's where he is today, because if you think, he was not giving anything as a youngster.
Right.
He's had to earn whatever he has gotten, and because of that, then every night he steps on the floor, he feels like he has to prove again. No matter what everyone outside says or what that noise is, in his mind, it's a proving ground again tonight. And so I think the difference that you have between those two is there's the dog in fourth quarters for him. That's when the lights come on, and that's winning time, and that's when he wants the basketball. That's when he wants to make a difference. And I think the difference between those two guys, at least early on, Morant is able to have his team win games while still being a guy that takes control and has an imprint.
Was this part of their plan, though? Because, 2 years ago, they clearly tanked, right? Like, suddenly Marc Gasol is not in the fourth quarter. You're like, they had a lead. They took the best player out. And then they obviously traded him away. So, but did they plan on being this good this soon?
I don't think anyone can plan on being this good when the core of your team is 24 and younger. And so you don't think in our game, there haven't been teams have the success at winning with young guys. So what this was supposed to be a year of growth, maturity, understanding how to play with Taylor Jenkins, who was our first-year head coach, and then we'll see what happens in year 2. The thing that happened is you didn't realize how good Morant was and that he can lead a basketball team, but he can lead men to play hard every night and then have the talent to be able to create highlight plays. When he gets so much credit for being an athlete and what he doesn't get enough credit for how smart he is, because he can dissect when he needs to be a scorer, when he needs to be an assist guy. And I think the mental side is what has him being will put him a step above other young guards.
Brevin, I think we all agree Russell Westbrook has that dog in him, but it also he sometimes takes it too far, where he like loses his mind and tries to prove to everybody, no, I can shoot. Now, since they traded Capella, they've done a great job of like, hey, he's barely taking anything. Only took 2 last night.
Yes.
But we also saw him lose his cool a little bit in a 35-point win. Give me your sense of Russ and whether or not he can ever achieve. He has an unbelievable motor, athletic ability, competitiveness, but can kind of figure out how to put it all together.
But I kind of take it like this, and I kind of look at myself as this guy. They're edge players. He's a guy that plays with an edge. And there's a line for those guys that play with a chip. As long as you stay on the right side of the line, it's an asset for your team because that's what drives you. That's what people live on, the way that you play, the ferocity that you play the game with. When you go to the other side of the line, that's when it starts to become more about you. Yeah. And that's when the edge that was the positive becomes the negative. And as long as he can just stay on the left side, which is staying on the correct side of the line, then I think that energy that he brings gives the Rockets the boost that they need to be good. It's just when that chip on your shoulder goes too far the other way, and now it's not about what's happening with the other 4 guys, it's what's happening with me. And I understand it because I play with that chip. And when you're a guy where you feel as though you've been slighted at any point in time, you got to find, for pros, we got to find what is it that's going to drive me every night. You said I can't shoot. Well, I'm gonna show you I can shoot. Yeah. Well, they said I can't pass. I'm too small. That is the energy that you take in every night so that you can perform.
Lakers or Clippers, who do you like better as we get closer to the playoffs?
I think the Clippers have the players, the defenders, they have it all on paper. They haven't played together enough. And I think that when it comes down to it, the camaraderie that the Lakers are building for this entire season, to me, I say still the best player in the game, how he controls it in LeBron James. I think that gives them the edge in terms of which team can win in a 7-game series. Just the knowledge of the next guy next to me gives them that edge. You talking about Kawhi and Paul George, those guys have played very minimal together.
Right.
So how when we get into a tough moment, how do we know how to react if we've never been in tough moments together?
It's interesting. You talk about LeBron. So I was doing First Things First, our morning show this week, and I said, I think LeBron's the MVP, but I don't actually think he's a top 5 player. And sometimes it gets misconstrued and people don't like, look, when they played against Milwaukee, he can't guard Giannis anymore. Like he just, and there are nights in which he just doesn't have it like he always used to have it.
Right.
But he can still control things, right? He can still make things happen. He can play center field defensively and tell everybody else where they're supposed to go. He can still find a way to dial it up at the right moment. Like, I would think over an 82-game schedule, and I know that Kawhi doesn't play 82, but he can't guard Kawhi. He can't really guard Giannis, but he still has an unbelievable amount of value. And he's really evolved as a player here as he's trying to kind of figure out how to do it as his body is not the same as it used to be.
Well, the one place I'll disagree with you is physically, he may not be able to do it, but mentally, he is smart enough that he can do it when they need it. If you're playing a playoff series and they say, LeBron, we need you to guard Kawhi, he can guard Kawhi, give him the space that he needs to give him. Will it be the same LeBron? No. Because it's 17 years into the league now. He's been to numerous finals, so the tread on his body is different. But I think that he is still such a smart, intellectual player that he can figure out, how do I maneuver playing against this guy to be successful? But he also went out and got a running mate to make sure that he didn't have to do everything. Right. So Anthony Davis now, hey, Anthony, I need you to carry this load offensively if I got to carry a defensive load, or vice versa.
It's really interesting because he does. He feeds Anthony Davis the first 3 quarters, and then the 4th quarter they almost forget that Anthony Davis is even there. Probably a little bit to their detriment. I believe that if Giannis, and he said, and he also has that honesty bug, which I don't think he meant anything by it, but they asked him about playing with his brothers, and he's like, in Milwaukee or in LA, don't care. My mom would be super happy, right?
Right.
And so now we're starting to talk. Now we'll start the chatter. If they don't win, could he leave? I think it would be it would be very upsetting to half the owners if Giannis left, right? They got a new arena, got a new practice facility, to put the whole team around him. They're clearly talented enough to get there. And if that guy says, I got to go to LA or I got to go to New York, I can't imagine that sitting well with half of the league from a former player's perspective. I know they've earned the right to go wherever they want to go. What are your thoughts on the possibility of if Giannis were to look elsewhere?
Well, of course, first and foremost, yes, you become a free agent, you have the right to do what you want. But if you are asking what is best or how do you view the league, I like that we have the amount of teams that you have that can compete on a nightly basis, and it's because you do still have some stars on these other teams. And so if Giannis leaves and goes to another team with a lot of stars, then I think we go back to a couple years ago where you only have 3 or 4 teams that can compete. The rest are just fighting for the next draft moving forward. So I think for the league, for the competition in the Eastern Conference, if he stays there and those teams can continue to fight, then I think it's the best for the league. The one thing I do say is I don't know, and I don't know if he is good enough to win multiple championships, though, with the Milwaukee Bucks, because I watched that All-Star game. When they got to the point where it was now, where they were playing for real, he just became another guy on the floor. It wasn't the dominate. I watched LeBron. I watched James Harden. We watched everybody else step up and be able to dominate at that time because that's who they are.
Yes.
He was different in that situation. So I think that playing with the guys that he plays with gives him the best chance to win games where he is, unless he goes and plays with some other stars somewhere else.
I watched Embiid last night, and I know it's probably a travel, that Euro step, but it's it's the ability at that size to contort your body that way. Like
Yes.
the way he moves, he can score in the post, he can shoot, he can block shots. He had, after the game, declared himself the best player in the league, right? I mean, I like his personality. I actually think he might be the most talented dude in the league.
Right.
Why isn't it consistent? Why the roller coaster?
Well, I think the roller coaster is their team's a roller coaster. Who are they? And a lot of times the players suffer if your team's identity is suffering. And I think that's their biggest problem. They continue to have the battle of, is it one or the other with Simmons and Embiid? Well, why can't it be both? You got a guy, if you want to run, you got a great point guard, and Simmons with his size, length, his passing ability that can push the ball and run. But then if you get in a half-court situation, you got a big guy that you can throw the ball to inside, and he can go to work. And people say, well, Simmons can't shoot. Well, let Simmons go be in the dunker spot. He throws the ball to the post. You go away and play short corner. And now with everybody, Richardson, Rick Korkmaz, you guys, if those guys are going to make shots and force double teams, well, now when the swing, he's a ducking guy against a guard on the other side. Well, you can't live with that. Or he's an offensive rebounder on the board. So I think your style of play has to go hand in hand with the players that you have.
Yeah.
And you can't be our game doesn't have to be one way. You can have speed guys, but you can also have a big guy that you can play with that can be efficient for you in the half court.
All right, I got one more question. And it's not really a question. I just want you to go. When I say Kobe.
It's a legend. It's still hard for me to fathom that he's not here because he, for us, was the standard bearer. And, of course, Jordan was great. But for all of us, we played against Kobe his entire career, for me, my playing career. And he embodied what we all tried to be, which was he was the best, but he worked harder than the worst. And that's not something that you see on a regular basis. And so it was hard to take the news because of the way that it happened. And I don't think we'll ever, it's one of those things that you'll never get over. And anytime you see him, you talk about it, you see the image, those emotions come back because he was our Jordan. And so we'll miss him dearly. I miss competing against him. Once I left from playing the game, it was always fun to get out there and play against him. And so it's a sad moment. It'll continue to be a sad moment, and only because we have the personal relationship with him. I'm not going to forget about with his daughter, with the other people that passed away at any said, but he was what we all strive to be, was to be the best, but work as hard as the last player on the team.
And I feel like, and I can tell in your voice that it's still very, very raw. And like, then when you say it, like all of a sudden, like I get goose pimples, and it's like, wow, it's been a couple of weeks, but it still feels very raw. It's like we all need a therapy session.
Right.
And tell me if I'm wrong. I feel like he figured out life too. Like if you watch the video from the tribute night, right? When LeBron gave his speech.
Yes.
But the video when they had the cellist, and I'm like, I'm in a hotel room in Miami. I'm crying like a baby,
Yes.
right? It started with his voice. He was deadpan, just like Michael Jordan. I mean, it was a Jordan impression. And then he was kind of trying to be Hood there, early 2000s.
Yes.
Like he was trying to be one of the guys. We're like, come on, man, you grew up in Italy.
He wanted
right?
to be Philly. He wanted to go back to
He wanted to go back to Philly. And then all of a sudden, like he figured out, like, you know, I'm kind of bright and intelligent and articulate.
Yes.
And then you like, and it's narrated by his voice post-career, like, he's brilliant. But the brilliance wasn't just, that wasn't the part the rest, it was that he figured it out.
Yes.
Right? And as guys, it takes us a little longer to figure it out than women. Women seem to figure that stuff out. Bam, like that. Who I am, what I'm about, what I want. Guys, it takes us a while. And I think that's maybe the saddest part is, man, he'd finally figured it out. And now he's gone.
Yeah, he figured it out because he became so much more approachable.
Yes.
As his career went along. I think in the beginning, a lot of us were just kind of turned off on him. He was standoffish. And a lot of people said, why didn't guys want to play with him? Because he drove you so hard. And that was because that was how he drove himself. And he went through his ordeals, whatever he had to go through. But at the end of the day, he was a better person. He was passionate about his family. And I think that's all you can ask is to watch someone grow up. He came into the league at 18 years old. And he played in the league for, 18, 19, 20. He played for so long. So we watched him go from a youngster to a grown-up, and it takes time. You go through trials and tribulations to grow.
Brevin Knight, you check him out on the Fox Sports covering the Memphis Grizzlies. Great to catch up with you.
No, thanks for having me.
Let's get to Joy Taylor with the news.
No.